Hi, I'm Borkon. Glad to have you here. Welcome back. And today is the great debugging of the wood farm. I previously might have said that I'm not gonna do this in an episode anymore because I'm just gonna build a new version whenever I have it ready and then just mention it quickly. But a lot of people have told me that you really enjoy me doing all the debugging and the little bit hairy stuff that takes a lot of time and multiple attempts. So let's make an episode about that. There will be the grand debugging of this machine. But first we need to look at what I have built now, why it's broken, and how we need to improve it. And the number one bit that is completely broken, it is the dispensing mechanism. This is the mechanism that is shooting out the TNT. It's kind of full of TNT, and I'm not happy about that because we're being fed TNT from the TNT factory, but I need to remove this because this thing is coming down. Because the first problem is the TNT dispensing mechanism. I will need free cam for this to explain exactly what's going on. So let's look down here. This is the hole where the TNT comes out. And the TNT is gonna fall. There is supposed to not be scaffolding here. Happens to be because I was doing some work here. But the TNT is supposed to fall down along this ancient debris because the ancient debris pushes away all the blocks that are exactly in front of it and leaves a hole that is just one block like this. So the TNT has to fall down straight. And that is problem number one. This is the biggest problem of this farm. Might not be the first problem we solve, but it is the biggest problem of this farm. Because, well, this doesn't shoot straight. That's the simple version of it. The TNT, most cases, falls straight down, but sometimes it has a little bit of sideways momentum. And if it has a lot of sideways momentum, it will hit the wall here, or the wall here, or preferably both. Like, it will hit any of the obsidian blocks near it, and that will cancel the momentum, and then it starts falling straight. That is great. The problem is that the TNT is not really exactly a full-size block, so it can have enough momentum that it still gets past this bit here, but then moves enough sideways to land on something here. And if the TNT lands too early, because it is supposed to land on the ancient debris that is being extended, if it lands too early, then the next TNT that is coming will land on it. The first one explodes, it pushes away the second TNT, which flies in any random direction, and things go kaboom. A lot of kaboom here. So that is the biggest problem. I already had a problem here where I don't remember if it was on a stream or in an episode. I just added an extra block here, completely forgetting that the nether wood can actually generate in this spot, in this block, and this ancient debris needs to have space to push it away. I put an ancient debris block here because that would align the TNT better, which it actually would, but that made the nether warts get stuck here and basically just blow itself up. So yeah, that was a problem. This had to be fixed. I fixed that, and that's why the scaffolding is here. But that doesn't help. That doesn't solve the problem. But then this machine has other problems. Like, the timings here are relatively well calculated, but they're not tight enough. I can tighten them up to speed up the whole thing. But the biggest thing I can do about speeding it up is that currently I only have one block of nylium. And I have the one block of nylium here because this is exactly the same design principle I went with the first nether wood farm I made many months ago when I wasn't, like, I barely knew what I was doing with redstone. I still barely know what I'm doing, but I know so much more now. So yeah, we can do much better than this, because when you bone meal an nylium, it can generate these kinds of mushrooms or fungi on up to 2 blocks away. Even if I just have one row of blocks of nylium, one bone meal can generate 5 mushrooms, and that should definitely improve bone meal efficiency of this thing. So that is definitely something we need to try. The mechanism here can be a little bit smarter. I don't need to do any magic with, because right now I have some careful timing when I'm spamming, because there are two different dispensers. There is one dispenser, it's back here, that is spamming the nylium, and then there is another dispenser that is spamming the fungi, or the mushrooms, whatever you want to call them. So this one down here needs to fire once to generate something, which in most cases isn't a mushroom, and this one needs to spam it to make a tree grow. But the thing is, this thing will never use bone meal unless there is a mushroom in front of it. So we can just have it run constantly. I have a mechanism here that turns it off and on all the time. It's just a lot of pain. It's completely unnecessary. It could be spamming all the time and we would be fine. So I can do that. And there is so many other things. The trees, as you can see with this ring of lights, this is the highest level where the trees can grow. Why shouldn't I have this a little bit higher and maybe dispense 5 TNTs? And a lot of things like that. So this thing needs a lot of work. Let's get to it. Alright, and I think I have the new growing core of the machine here. Of course, like I didn't develop this on its own. I developed it around the machine, but I pulled it out so I can show what's going on here because I think it's actually quite neat. Let's start by the general overview of how the whole machine works, like the parts that I removed. And so basically this thing here attempts to grow a tree, then it detects that a tree got grown, and it sends a signal by, well, through this repeater. This repeater then goes up to the TNT dispensing system and does the whole blow up cycle. And then when the blow up cycle is done, it sends a signal back into this line here, which tells the machine that, okay, it's time to start a new growing cycle. And we're just going to be looking at the growing cycle right now, so the rest is unnecessary. So I can just power this by sending a pulse here. And so what's happening here, the problem is that this grew too fast. Ooh, this might actually be a problem trying to demo this machine, because things are now, this is so much faster than the old one. In the old one I could probably talk for a minute before anything grew. This one is too fast. Let's try again. So every time you see the pistons extend, it goes on this clock here. It's just a repeater clock, massive. I probably could shrink it at some point. Not really necessary. I'm gonna keep it as it is. So what this clock does is it first powers the pistons that either destroy all the junk that has grown here, or maybe destroy this mushroom next time this starts happening. But it happens that not always do the mushrooms grow fully, and I can't help it. And they are being powered by these target blocks. And also, since the dispensers that are dispensing the bone meal into these nylium blocks are, well, the target block is here, the dispenser is here, quasi-connectivity applies. So I only update this dispenser to dispense bone meal into the nylium in the middle, because that allows junk and sometimes mushrooms to grow on the blocks on the sides. The other dispensers here also have bone meal, but they are not updated, so they do not spam bone meal. But they are there only to be activated once in a while. So I could just take the note blocks here, right, like this, and then they would get updated every single time. And that actually does improve the rates of the farm. Yes, this farm has already been tested quite a bit, and it kind of works. At least this part works. This part works fine. I don't think it will need that much more work. But this uses so much more bone meal and doesn't really increase, like it uses 5 times more bone meal, basically, because these are the biggest spenders of bone meal, and doesn't really increase rates more than 30% or something like that, maybe even 50, but that's a bit too much. But these dispensers still need to be there because I need to power them sometimes when these blocks here, so if I have a block stuck like this for a while, and it doesn't have to be long, it just has to be one tick. Eventually this one will turn into netherrack. And to change them back to nylium, we need to shoot them with bone meal sometimes. I already have developed a mechanism to do this. It's not necessary to show it here. It would just be in the way. But every 8 times, or every 8 times we blow something up, every 8 cycles, we just shoot these dispensers one extra time, and that converts all the netherrack into nylium. And this block here, by the way, as you can see, it has nothing connected to it. It is here in case all the nylium get turned into netherrack. The chance for this is just astronomically microscopic, but it could happen, so we need to protect against that. This way, this machine can always recover from all 5 turning into netherrack. It will never happen, but if it does, we're safe. The way we detect that something has grown, in the previous version, I just had a comparator on the stem, and then I detected that something grew, and I then triggered the pistons. Here, instead, well, when building this machine, I need to put in at least this many logs, because here we have observers. And the observers just detect that anything has moved in front of them, because as I showed you, every cycle of this clock here, the pistons fire, and the pistons either destroy junk here or push the logs away. If they push a log away, then this gets detected here, like this one got pushed out. I will remove that one, and you can see soon that we will get another log sticking out here. Yeah, we got another log almost immediately. And when that happens, this sends a signal here, 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 into this observer that gets pushed in front of this repeater, and that starts the whole blow-up cycle. And at the same time, the signal also powers this sticky piston, which pulls out this block from the clock, stopping the clock before it starts the next cycle. It is well-timed. But there is also the last thing. How do we spam bone meal on this stuff that generates here? And that is not done by the dispensers below, because they can't do that. That has to be done by the dispensers from above, or from the side, but we do it from above. And they get powered, well, if they got powered directly, which was the first thing I was doing, then these pistons will just go completely mad, because they would get updated somehow, sometimes. It was just bad. It doesn't work, so we need to power them individually through blocks. And how do we get a signal from below here to here? That's a little bit of a pain. And I came up with this idea. All the blocks that generate here are either warped warts or stems, or maybe there is a microscopic chance that there will be a shroomlight. They all conduct redstone signals. So the clock that is spamming the bone meal from these is sending a signal through this log here. Well, it happens to be a log here. It could be one of these. That is fine. Powers this note block, which gets observed by this line of observers, which just powers these observers. And that's how the core here works. It is actually, what surprised me is that it is much simpler than the old one. The old one was much more complicated. But I guess that's what comes with experience designing these kinds of machines. You just end up doing it simpler than it has been done before, because, well, why waste time doing something more complicated? I really like this. This core is working great. The problem we have now is to distribute the bone meal to this thing. So there needs to be bone meal coming in into these dispensers, and there is just no other way than to do it from this side. Like, there needs to be either droppers here, which I don't think would be possible because of these pistons here would get powered through quasi-connectivity and it would be stupid, or we need hoppers, and I went with hoppers. Bone meal comes from composters and maybe an external system, and it comes into this dropper here. This dropper is just a dropper line, and I can't really show it because there's so much junk in the way, but trust me, the droppers come up here, right? And below here we have the dispensers here and the hoppers leading into the dispensers. The dropper line is literally here. I'm in the dropper line. It goes above the hoppers, which suck out the bone meal as much as they need until the hoppers get full. Then the dropper line continues here, being powered by observers in a very awkward and terrible way, and I probably need to redesign this. Here, the droppers pass over hoppers, and these are hopper lines that lead into these dispensers. These dispensers get bone meal and everybody is happy. And then there is, well, my optimism added an overflow system, which for now is just a bit of wool for the hopper counters in the carpet mod. But of course, there needs to be some dropper that shoots this into a cactus or into lava or somewhere. And I probably won't even be able to fit something here. But that needs to be solved a long time in the future. I don't think this thing will be bone meal positive in a long time yet. And, well, the loot system is just like before, just a million of hoppers. And to prevent the hoppers from being blown up, we covered them with ender chests. But now we have a problem. Because in the past, if we look down here again, this whole mechanism is much bigger and it's taking up a lot more real estate above. So in the past, I actually didn't have any blocks, because I also had pistons that were pushing the logs out of the way, but I didn't have anything above the pistons, because the dispenser that was dispensing the bone meal was, well, where the log is now, and the piston was where the glass is. And that is possible with just one nylium. It is not possible with 5 nylium. So there is a whole section here which is covered in crying obsidian and not in ender chests. And this is where the loot, well, doesn't go, because we can't have hoppers underneath. That's simple. Why is this block there? It's supposed to be there. So what's going on here? Well, we do have... Oh, and I already see that something got blown up on this machine. So it's supposed to be an observer like this, but this actually helps me. We have a dispenser here with a bucket and a water source here. And why is there an ender chest here? Well, this is because when these things generate, the warped words can end up pretty much everywhere here, including under the dispenser, which would destroy the water source. And as far as I know, ender chest is the only block that we can waterlog and is explosion resistant. But why do we need something that is explosion resistant? It is waterlogged? Well, no, because we don't want the water here when we are doing the explosion cycle, because if in that case the blocks at the bottom here would, well, be protected from explosions, and we would end up with something like this. And now the loot that lands here doesn't have anywhere to go, because the water is necessary to push the loot into the hoppers. And I actually probably could reduce the number of hoppers, because most of them are no longer necessary with the water pushing the loot, but let's ignore that for now. So the first thing that we do in the beginning of the explosion cycle is to suck the water out with the bucket, so that everything is dry when we're running our explosions, and then we flood this again to get the loot into the hoppers. And when it comes to the loot system, there is another change I had to make, and it is that we are generating now so much loot that I actually need 2 different filter systems. So half of the loot goes in the hoppers on this side, and split somewhere in the middle here. It goes into the filters here, and, well, the other half goes into the filters here, and we also need 2 filters for warped words, because we are generating so much. Yes, this is, even in initial testing, this is generating so much loot that we need 2 filters for warped words, otherwise we will not be able to compost them fast enough. And we need to split the loot because it is already over 9,000 items. And here I also did another upgrade, but I don't think I'm gonna keep this. This needs to change, because the logs are now, since the logs are being pushed in this direction, they need to be pushed in here. But having them in just one line, well, they're not being blown up fast enough. So I am splitting them into 2 streams of logs, but it's icky. I don't like this. I think that I probably need to push the logs up here because and my thinking is that we are not generating that much trees up here, so the TNT that is exploding up here is less likely to be shielded by a log here, which means that it is more likely to blow up these logs and we will not get any buildup. I'll have to experiment with this, but most likely the logs will have to be rerouted higher up and go in here. But now, rather than doing anything on this, I think it is time to focus on aligning the TNT, because that is the big issue, and we definitely need to solve that, and I have a few experimental ideas how to deal with that. This is my life now, staring at an endless stream of TNT. It's actually quite fun, so I shouldn't be complaining. Let's see what's going on here. Sometimes I need to rebuild these towers of chests with TNT just to, well, to see what's going on. Let me slow down time, or not slow down time, make the time go at normal speed so we can see what's going on. So I am testing here how the TNT behaves. I'm trying to make sure that the TNT is properly aligned. And, well, on the last stream, we actually came up with this design. I had other designs I was trying earlier, and I had one that almost worked, but this one is working perfectly. I hope. Well, the problem is, I'm saying this is working perfectly. Unfortunately, when I finally incorporated it into the Nether wood farm design, and yes, this is now actually almost functioning, it blew itself up after about 70 hours. This has survived 70 hours, except the problem is that after 70 hours, it blew up ancient debris, and that's kind of an expensive thing to lose. I think it blew up this one, or something like that. It blew up the ancient debris, which means that the ancient debris was hit by an exploding TNT the moment it was extending. This scrolling text is annoying me. The scrolling text is, by the way, a command block with a Scarpet script that is measuring timing. And I am looking at this number, the 3 here. I don't want this 3 to ever become a, well, 4 could be fine, but not 5. It's not too complicated. I'm measuring the time between dispensing the TNT and the TNT passing through this string here. I don't want there to be too much variability between those 2 times. I would like it to stay at 4 ticks. The 3 means that there are 4 different possible ticks where it could happen, because if there was no variability, the number would be 0. So you know how that works. 0, 1, 2, 3, which means it's 4 different numbers. That's how that works. So I don't want that number to become too high, so I am running this for hours and hours and hours and hours. And this one here is running to see that the TNT is correctly aligned with this, so it doesn't get stuck on the slime. Because if it gets stuck on the slime, it will explode and blow up the slime, of course. And let's turn off this spam for now. We don't need it. Anyway, what I tried, and we tried a little bit more on the stream, is various methods for getting the TNT properly aligned. Because the original thing I have built in my world, I had something like this, except that we added the walls here. So imagine there are no walls here, there is just crying obsidian like this. And I thought that since there are walls on all sides of the TNT would get properly aligned. So imagine these walls are not here, they don't work anyway, so they will not affect the TNT anyway. So let's turn this on and see what happens. Oh, first attempt. That is actually quite lucky. It usually takes dozens or hundreds or even thousands of attempts for this to happen. So someone on stream suggested that, oh, there is a standard trick for aligning a TNT, and it is to make it fall through walls that are connected by a fence gate, like this. This just doesn't work. I can promise you that. It doesn't work. I can try to turn it on and let it fall a few times, and we'll see. I have to warp time when I'm doing this, of course. So tick, warp. Let's give it an hour and see what happens. It usually, yeah, there it happened. It happens really quickly. The wood farm first original version survived 5 hours, and that was just because of luck. And because, of course, the TNTs are not dispensed that often. It takes a while for the trees to grow, so yeah, this is a very much sped up version of that, but that's what we want to do. We want to find the extreme behaviors of the machine. I should put this down slightly lower. If it's lower, then we're giving the TNT more time to, well, end up misaligned. So that's better. And it shouldn't get blown up here. Actually, let's leave both up. Now, someone suggested the simple solution, dispense the TNT into a honey block. And I knew that I experimented with that in the past. And yes, this does cancel most of the momentum of the TNT, but not all of it. It might actually just make the situation worse. Let's see. Yeah, boom. It doesn't take long for this to blow up the slime blocks. Now the next contraption, something I tried. Dispense the TNT. Push it with a piston later. And yeah, it blows up. It's that fast. So this doesn't work either. And then finally, so there is a water source here, there is a flowing water here, the water will push the TNT in this direction, and it will start falling. Now, this version of the contraption seems to align the TNT correctly-ish. We're gonna get into that. It aligns the TNT correctly. I can run this, and I have run this for 10-15 hours, and it is fine. And please don't have a demo effect that will make it blow up. No, there isn't. This one is fine, but that's why we built this contraption on stream that measures the time between dispensing the TNT and the TNT falling through the string. Because this version, as you can see here, there is a source block here, the TNT is being dispensed here, and there is air here. This had much bigger variability than I wanted. It was like 6 or 7 ticks between the slowest and the fastest TNT, and that makes the timing of the machine very, very awkward. So the new version, which we're testing here for the longest time, is that we have a source block here, we have an open fence gate here, and the water is flowing above. And the variability on the timing as measured by that machine is just 4 ticks, which is probably good enough for the machine. I'm 90% sure it is good enough. And so this mechanism required another change to the machine that I unfortunately had to do, and I had to move this entire platform up. As you can see, this is the way we are dispensing the water. And the problem this was solving, we had to move it up because warped warts can grow in here. And if a warped wart grows in here, well, it's obvious what would happen. We cannot allow that, so we have to have the TNT dispensing mechanism above the area where the trees can grow. And this is the highest block where the warped warts can grow, or any part of the tree can grow. So yeah, we're just 1 block above, and that is good enough. But that caused more issues. Now there can be warped warts here, right? And in the past, this was just a dispensing mechanism. So now I have to push these blocks away. But the problem is, if I push blocks away, this is just a normal pusher here. If I push the blocks away, I cannot allow them to build up here. So they need to be blown up. And that means that I had to change the machine from 4 TNTs into 5 TNTs. 5 TNTs is enough. As you can see, all this is after running for 50 hours. And yes, for some reason, the TNT did get stuck here. A second one landed. The pistons extended at the exact moment the first one was blowing up. The second TNT that just landed on this TNT got chucked this way, blew up part of my bone meal dispensing mechanism, but also blew up this clock. So I left this machine well, over a few hours when I was away, just tick warping, it had a much bigger tower of TNT chests, and it did blow up the slime. Unfortunately, I kind of don't know how often this happens, so I slightly changed the setup here. Instead of having slime here, I'm having a... It's very hard to see, but there is a string here, and there is an observer, and then there is a command block running a just ridiculously simple command, just counting the misaligned blocks. And it does work. Well, I hope this one works, because this one has never caught anything, and this is just a slightly different variation of that setup that I'm testing here, that maybe leaves a little bit more time for the TNT to align, or maybe less. I actually don't know, that's why I'm testing it. But I know that this works because I just tested... Which one was it? Was it this one? Yes, it was this one. This is the setup that I'm using, well, currently built farm that I have to change because it's misbehaving so much. And yeah, let's just see this in action. I will have to tick warp here. There will be a little bit of noise, but... So I'm counting with different variables here. We will be able to see that this one will be triggering the command blocks all the time. Let's run a tick warp. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10, 13, etc. I'm not going to keep this running because this is just going to be spamming my console here. But basically, this one is causing 120 misalignments per hour. It's constant. And by the way, I had a suspicion, and the suspicion was, well, the suspicion is not true. Let me just preface with that. The suspicion was not true, but the suspicion was that in the previous world where I was testing all these nether wood machines, I had the carpet option extreme behaviors on. And I thought for a while, and I said it on Discord as well, that, oh, I think that this might have been causing the issues, because extreme behaviors makes the dispensers shoot out the TNT at higher speeds and more extreme angles. And the problem we're dealing with here is that I want the TNT, when it's shot out from the dispenser, to hit the walls, right? Because if it hits this wall and then this wall, or maybe this wall and that wall, that will stop all of its sideways momentum, and then it will fall straight down. And I was thinking that extreme behaviors would be causing the TNT to actually be more likely to hit the walls. Maybe extreme behaviors also makes the shallower angles more likely. I don't know. But anyway, the difference between extreme behaviors on and extreme behaviors off was none whatsoever. The 1 hour tests I did with the old dispensing mechanism, so this one, the difference was 2 hits. So one got 118 and the other got 120. There is no statistical significant difference. So I'm now going to run these for as long as it takes to cause an issue. And I really don't know how long it took, because, well, I had it run on tick warp for 5 hours. I don't know how many times it caused a misalignment issue, but it did blow up the slime that was there. That's all I know. So now I'm actually counting, and I'm comparing these two mechanisms because I can use this mechanism as well, and I know it's kind of reliable. And, well, so if this one is causing 1 misalignment for every, I don't know, 10 hours of tick warping, and this one causes 0, well, it's not going to be 10 hours. Let's not fool ourselves. It's going to be 100 hours or 1,000 hours. Probably closer to 1,000, because it is such a rare event. The problem is that even a rare event will probably blow up the nether wood farm. I have an emergency solution that I will implement if none of these work. And the emergency solution is to just encase the whole blast chamber, well, or whatever we want to call it, with obsidian. It will still not work properly because, as you can see there, the pistons will have to be uncovered at least a little bit, so the flying TNT will probably blow them up, but it's the best I can do. I don't think I can do any better than that. And, well, we will just sometimes have to, I guess, break the obsidian, or break the crying obsidian, crawl into the machine, clean it up, and restart it. As you might know, I hate unreliable farms, but that might be the best I can do because I'm running out of options. But I'm gonna leave this for at least 100 hours. Actually, let's change the tick warp. Let's stop this tick warp. Change the tick warp to 100 hours or 1000 hours, and let the testing commence. More results! As you can see, there are big towers of chests and hoppers feeding even more TNT into these things. And, well, the news are I have a method for perfectly aligning the TNT. This one. Let's see how it works. So I dispense the TNT on top of a glass pane. This is important because it apparently makes the TNT kind of start falling a little bit more here. But some magic, I don't know what happens. It pushes the TNT here, hits this wall. After it has gone over this glass pane and hit that wall, it is already aligned on one axis. I did try this by just having one block it could land on, and it never landed on that block. And then to align it on the other axis, I push it over, well, over this glass pane, and then it falls down, and it is perfectly aligned. The disadvantage of this, and it actually makes it impossible for me to use this contraption in the Nether tree farm, is, let's just... the TNT just doesn't fall far enough. And, well, maybe it does, but it's such an awkward amount of timing that, like, I don't even want to try it. But that was the bad news. I'm not gonna use this in the Nether tree farm. And by the way, as you can see, there are no observers with strings and command blocks anymore, because the old one here, the one that I'm actually using in the Nether tree farm, it didn't work. Like, it never hit the strings. I don't know if it has something to do with the hitboxes of the strings or something. I added like a whole stack of strings with observers and the TNT never touched them. But as soon as I add a platform like this where it can get stuck, it got stuck, blew up the platform, and we were done. So I've no idea why that didn't work. It doesn't. I kind of probably need to read up on hitboxes a little bit more. Maybe the string doesn't catch this reliably. The same thing went for this one. The string here didn't catch it reliably either. But I have more news because, as you can see, there is a new hole here and there's some slime here that isn't really in the normal place because normally I was placing the slime like this. What's going on here? And yeah, I complained a little bit on, well, didn't complain, I just gave progress updates. Oh, I forgot. This one blew itself up. I can't show it to you. But we have a new method with the help from Discord, and it was mostly Borkon. I have no idea how to pronounce your name. And Shady J, we finally have a good method that actually works. Let me actually just build it up for you because it is not too complicated. We have a dispenser here. We have a sticky piston with slime here. We have a sticky piston with slime here. And some delay. I will not rebuild the clock. It blew itself up because I was experimenting with timing, and I did it live. That was kind of dumb. This setup actually works. So if I put some TNT in here, and then just, well, power this one. As you can see, it is falling perfectly. And yes, this has been properly tested. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is what happens if you mess around with the timing wrong. There we go. Now it is correct. And yes, I have tested this for a ridiculous amount of time, and this actually seems to do the job. So first we first we dispense the TNT, then we push the TNT with a slime, and then we push the TNT with a slime again. That's it. And this works. And as you can see from the Nether tree farm, it's almost fully encased in obsidian because I was just preparing for an overnight test when this thing is fully encased. And like I said, I cannot fully encase it because, like, there are access ports here. So if we have one or couple of blowy uppy TNTs, they will fly in through here, blow up these pistons, and the machine will break anyway, so it's not 100% reliable. And in the other news, I'm lighting things up. Yeah, with respawn anchors. That's the only blast-proof block that gives off good light levels. Beacons actually blow up, surprisingly enough. Even though they're made out of obsidian, they do blow up. Respawn anchors don't. So I'm gonna be using respawn anchors to light the whole thing up. Anyway, let me build up that contraption as the TNT dispensing mechanism here, and let's run this overnight and see if it survives. And I built it, and yeah, the wiring here is a little bit awkward because I didn't want to move the clock, and the pulse divider, this is the pulse divider that divides by 5, by the way, just counts the number of TNTs we dispense. But yeah, it still works, it's just a little bit ugly wiring, but I'm happy with that. It's fine, it works now, so it is now time to build this for real. Let's do that. And it survived this much TNT. I have no idea how long it's been running for. I left it on a very fast tick warp overnight, and yeah, it ate all the TNT. Nothing got blown up. All the blocks are looking fine. I now already cleaned up everything, took a blueprint of it, and it's time to build it. And it's done. It's working gloriously great. I've been running it for a couple of hours now just to make sure that everything is fine in survival. Everything is fine in survival. We finally have wood. And as you can see in the water stream below me, well, it doesn't happen exactly the moment I wanted it to happen. But yeah, the planks are coming up. Oh, yeah, we can see them. Wait, I can look at it like this. It should be, yes, the planks are coming in here from an autocrafter because we are autocrafting the logs immediately into planks. And there's actually a large amount of planks we're generating because this is generating, what was it? Like 1,500 logs per hour. So we probably are getting around 6,000 planks per hour, which is great. I probably don't even want this to be faster than hopper speed generation of planks because then we couldn't keep up in the filters over there. It is just absolutely glorious. Yes, everything is connected. You can see there TNT is coming in. And by the way, if you're wondering about the other explosions, that's the cobble generator that is also running because one of the autocrafters needs cobblestone. Don't know which, but apparently it does. Or another possibility is that I actually... Yeah, because I had a few spillage accidents. Maybe I broke something in here. No, because... Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Let's see. No, this is not turned on. And this torch isn't turned on. So yeah, the cobblestone generator should be running. Actually, I should just check here. Is the line on? The line is on. Maybe I'm powering it by accident. Ooh. That is a worry. No, I'm not powering it by accident. Someone over there is requesting cobblestone. It's probably the lever generator or something like that. It's fine. I don't mind. But yeah, this thing is working gloriously. And oh, we just got a giant tree. I think this is like almost the biggest possible tree. As you can see, not all of it was blown up. But that is fine because the next round of TNT is gonna blow it up. Because this next tree will not grow that big, so it's usually fine. Like the logs up there are kind of hard to reach with the TNT. I probably should have a 6th as well, but the 5th one can catch up eventually, unless all the trees that generate are huge, and they aren't, they never are. So that is good. And yes, there are some really terrible visual glitches on the TNT when it's falling, but it's just some client-server desync or whatever it is. It's fine. The TNT is behaving exactly as it should. The timings are pretty tight. I can actually make the timings faster, but not today. No, absolutely not today. we're definitely done for today. This has ended up being a very long episode, but well, people have been asking for a debugging episode or a design episode, and well, there you have it. We'll see if everybody hates it or likes this one. Anyway, actually, let me know in the comments, because we're done. I'll be streaming from this world probably today. I cannot 100% promise, so hang out on Discord to see if that happens or not. Just basically ask me on Discord. And we'll see, because there might be some other things coming up. The usual place for the stream, there will be links in the description. The Discord is also linked in the description. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a good wood blasting. Bye.